Hello and welcome to today's product update webinar for Just Planet. Quick things as always, this is a GoToWebinar and all attendees are automatically muted to prohibit any background noise that might occur. If you do have questions, please feel free to ask them via the questions or the chat box of the GoToWebinar software. Also, as always, my name is Jan Vierguts. I am the development lead for Just Planet, and let's take a look at what happened in the last update. The first thing that we're going to talk about is the disabling of resources. This is a feature that was often requested by customers, because let's face it, sometimes we do face the occurrence that a resource or a person or personnel is permanently unavailable and cannot continue to work on the shop floor, or a specific resource should not be taken into account until a certain period of time. Until now, you had to set a calendar exception spanning a long way into the future to prohibit any resource assignments here. You may even needed to update this calendar exceptions if you needed to keep the resource in your plan for reporting purposes because of shop floor reporting and the like. And there was no way to see that a resource is unavailable for planning in the reports. And now we can simply disable it. That will mean that all finished tasks will remain on the resource, allowing for reporting just as before, and no new task will be scheduled on this resource until it is enabled again. That means that all your feedback, shop floor feedback, is still on there, and in the reports you will see, because there's now a field available for it, if a resource is currently available for scheduling or not. That was one of the two major features added into the last release. The other really major thing is the scheduling of manpower related tasks. Let's talk a bit about the use case here. A certain task is fully operated by manpower resources. For example, the assembly of things, for example, chairs. And the more heads or more personnel allocated to such an operation, the shorter the total runtime will be, because you simply split the task throughout your entire workforce here. And normally, you have a maximum or preferred amount of people or heads wanting to work on a task. Please note that this is a very different use case to combo tasks, which means that, for example, an operator and a machine must be available at the same time from start to end, like we had before the update. You were always able to set 2 resource group constraints for a given task, and those would have ensured that both resources are available in the same time frame. In the manpower-related use case here, while the scheduling engine might come to a result that the tasks can be done in parallel, given finite capacities, that is not guaranteed anymore. But, as usual, you should never see a worse result compared to using heads compared to using no heads. Now, how did you do it before? How could you tackle such a case beforehand? We always had the option to split a task. But that was kind of a long-winded process, because you needed to split the task, check all the subtasks if the values are still correct the way you want them, then take a look into the results if those match or not. If they're not, you had to undo until you're back to the main task and repeat the process again. With this new release and the new functionality of the heads, all of this work gets done for you. So the heads are the maximum number of people you want to work on a task on. And then the scheduling engine automatically divides that task into subtasks of equal quantities. And each task is then separately planned. Again, coming back to the note of beforehand, this does not guarantee a parallel workflow, but might result in a better throughput here. All values on setting the heads are inherited from its parent, so you don't need to take care of watching the hyperlinks, the additional informations, anything like that that you would need to take a look at when simply splitting the task or even changing it, all those values are directly inherited from the parent or base task here. And this is fairly quick to do and see the results and even change them. And how are we doing that? Let's take a quick look at how we are going to do that. So here we see a typical Just Planet, and we see we had a rush order, a very important rush order with a very, very short delivery time. And we see that usually this is undoable for a single worker in assembly. Now let's take a quick look into the resource group view and see that we actually do have 4 workers working in our assembly group. So we could go ahead and just go into the task edits and see the subtasks header here. This is new, and if you take a look at here, you will see the current quantity and the current amount of heads selected. So if I put this up to 2, you will immediately see 2 subtasks are going to be created with the values inherited. I could even change the values here, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. And let's see what happens if I split the task by 2. Well, that's not quite enough. So again, comparison to before, you had to now undo, redo the split. This time I'm just going to head back into the task details with the shortcut to the subtasks area by hitting edit heads and saying, okay, then let everyone work on it. This is really important. I could even increase this higher because the head count is limited by the quantity. Of course, having 20 people work on it is not a thing for us since we only have 4 personnel available in this group. And quick reminder, each of these subtasks does count against the active amount of tasks in your plan. So I would advise some discretion here. But now let's see what happens if we increase the headcount to 4. And we see immediately we have a better result. We see the rush order is completed. We see this has a thoroughly positive impact on our plan. Hooray. And now to the worst case scenario. Worker 4 hands in his notice. He is going to leave immediately. So how do we handle this? Well, we can go into the resource in any of the resource-centric views or into the multi-purpose dialog, of course, and head into the edit of this resource and now check him as disabled. What will that do? As said before, this will completely remove him from the scheduling and will also mark them as disabled in the graphic here. You also have the option to hide resources in the resource-centric view that do not or that are disabled. So if I click here, for example, as you can see, worker 4 has been removed to keep the view focused on those people currently actually available. But if we take a closer look here, we see that now rush order 4, our rush order that was split into 4 is now back to being late. Why is that? If we go back, again, all of these tasks are split in equal parts. So since we now only have 3 workers available in our group, one of them has to have double duty here. That's not ideal for us, so what we can then quickly do is edit the heads again and see how we fare if we go down to 3 people. And we do see, okay, everything's back in the green again, and we're good to go. Of course, we're a bit worse off than we were before, when we had 4 people working in assembly, but that's expected. If a resource is no longer available, that's usually not a good impact on overall planning. Those are I hope I brought the benefits of this heads and manpower tasks a bit to the forefront. I want to tell you guys that this is a first step. This is currently completely based on quantities. We are already working on enhancing this further out. and are really excited to see how you guys handle our first attempt into the Manpower tasks here, and are very much looking forward to your feedback on this. And with this, I thank you very much for your very kind attention. If you do have questions, again, I will stay a couple of minutes in the meeting to answer them. I already got one question. The heads can be uploaded via the Excel sheet and are also available through the API. So all ways that you know how to upload or interact with Just Planet from outside of the software itself are also extended to incorporate the heads. Can simply add a column with the title heads, and it will work accordingly.